Championship bound, baby! Woo! Big love, baby! Woo! Here, man. It got a little crazy out there, but we made it through.
We're gonna keep stacking the day, so see you in the championship.
Bow! Let's go!
June 17th wasn't just another matchup, it was payback night. Think back to May 30th, when Jacy Sheldon and the Connecticut Sun left Sophie Cunningham in Sydney. Colson injured on the court after dirty plays that shockingly went unpunished. Well, the Indiana Fever didn't forget. And when Sheldon poked Caitlin Clark straight in the eye during the rematch, something inside her snapped. What followed proved exactly why you never mess with Clark's crew, because Sophie Cunningham was about to deliver one of the most satisfying flagrant fouls you'll ever witness. If you're Team Fever, drop a CC and Spicy Sophie in the comments. Let's go.
It was chippy the last time these two teams faced off too. Sophie Cunningham suffered her ankle injury in that game, but in addition to that, she actually had part of her front tooth knocked out. She made contact with Jacy Sheldon as Caitlin Clark knocks down the triple.
But what people don't talk about enough is how hard you have to work to be able to be that good. All the hours that she's spent perfecting her craft.
Retreating, firing, and hitting.
So she can do that.
On Indiana arguing the call.
I mean, step back, you're late. She almost looks you in the eye.
Picture this, May 30th, Indiana Fever versus Connecticut Sun. And it all went downhill for the Fever in the worst possible way. The game started. Out-routine just another WNBA battle for playoff positioning. But the Sun brought a level of physicality that quickly crossed the line from tough basketball to outright dangerous. From the very first tip, you could feel the tension rising with every possession.
Can we talk about the physicality for a second? Two players on the Indiana Fever got injured last night by the same player on the Connecticut Sun, and that was Jacy Sheldon. And I tweeted about it. She was playing so reckless. I'm fine with players playing aggressive, but there is a thin line between playing aggressive and playing reckless. When you dive for a ball, you don't land on somebody's leg. She landed on top of Sydney Colson's leg, and her leg got stuck and literally twisted around. Both injuries, both Sydney Colson and Sophie Cunningham, were contact injuries.
Sophie Cunningham was the first to go down hit with what looked like a blatant cheap shot. The contact wasn't just hard, it was excessive for a routine play. Then Sydney Colson got injured on another shady move that had everyone wondering what exactly was going on. And right in the center of both incidents, Jacy Sheldon, playing with a level of aggression that could make your blood boil.
They weren't non-contact. They weren't ACLs, they weren't Achilles, they were contact injuries caused by the same player. And this kind of physicality that the WNBA they brag about. They say it's always been a physical league. That's just the heart of the It's not good basketball. And we've seen so many injuries. Paige Becker's out with a concussion. Rakia Jackson was out with a concussion. All of these injuries are contact plays. We've seen Caitlin Clark last year get chucked to the ground. We saw Angel Reese get clothesline chucked to the ground. The players continue to do it because the refs are allowing them. Why wouldn't you keep doing it if you're a physical player?
This is where the college rivalry comes into focus. Sheldon and Clark had history. Back in their Iowa versus Ohio State days, Sheldon made it her mission to rattle Clark every time they shared the court. She'd tail her relentlessly, body her on screens, and run her mouth during stoppages. This wasn't just basketball anymore, this had turned deeply personal.
Her mortal enemy took out a player. Jacy Sheldon. Caitlin Clark's mortal enemy. Jacy Sheldon.
At my day, it felt like the referees were watching an entirely different game. The hard fouls, no whistles, the dangerous plays, completely ignored. Clark had to watch her teammates go down while Sheldon skated by without even a warning.
Bound, baby!
The frustration mounted by the minute. The Fever lost that game 85-83. But more painful was losing two key players to injuries that could have been avoided if the game had been properly officiated. Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson were hurt, and their absence would haunt the Fever in games to come.
This is a reckless play. This is reckless. It is dangerous. And this angle makes it look even worse. It is dangerous. Like, Sid Colson is between her and the ball. Sid Colson is in fact between Jacy Sheldon and the ball. and she dives through her knee. It wasn't even called as a foul. It wasn't even called as a foul.
You could see it in Clark's eyes after that crushing loss. The way she stared Sheldon down in the handshake line, the clipped tone in her post-game interview. This wasn't over, not even close. The Fever remembered who caused the damage. They remembered the refs let it slide. June 17th couldn't come soon enough. Clark, fresh off a quad injury and a 32-point masterclass against the then undefeated New York Liberty, was back for revenge. It was only her second game back after 3 weeks off, and you could tell she hadn't forgotten. From the way she stepped onto the court to the way she stared down Sun players during warm-ups, this wasn't just another tip-off.
She just texts me. She never texts me during the game.
All right. Here is Clark splashing home a three from way downtown. Kelly escorting her back to the bench.
Jacy Sheldon is there with her hand in her face.
From the opening whistle, the tension was thick. Sheldon was on Clark like her life depended on it crowding. Her space, bumping her on every screen, turning every possession into a wrestling match. It was the same hyper-aggressive style that had taken out Sophie Cunningham and Sydney Colson back in May. Everyone in the arena knew something big was brewing.
Third quarter we go. They're trailing by 10. Keep an eye on her and Jacy Sheldon. Clark trying to back her down.
Clark is okay.
Sheldon fouls Clark, hitting her in the face. Clark is upset about that. Then everybody's upset about that. Marina Mabrey comes in. She decks Clark, tempers flaring on both sides.
Then came the third quarter and everything changed. Clark was bringing the ball up court when Sheldon came over with what looked like a routine steal attempt. But instead, her finger jammed directly into Clark's eye. The impact was immediate and unmistakable, you could see. Clark's head jolt back from the contact.
I mean, is that displacement? I think it is.
Oh, and Marina Mabrey's going to get ejected. If the officials saw that, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected.
Well, they're going to go and look at it. Look at Mabrey. She's got a scar on one side, a scratch on one side of her face, a scratch on the other side. It's not from the game today. I asked her about it. She's always in the mix. There's a lot of contact here. There's a scrape across the face. That's what Clark didn't like.
Clark immediately grabbed her face, pain and fury flashing in her expression. She squinted, trying to recover her vision, but her mind was clearly racing beyond the sting. This wasn't some accident. It was the same player who'd already hurt her teammates, now coming after her. And Clark did what any fierce competitor would. She pushed back. Literally, she shoved Sheldon away after being jabbed in the eye. It was instinctual anyone would react like that. The crowd exploded. They'd seen the eye poke clear as day. But somehow, the officials were about to make everything worse.
Take another look as we try to figure out what exactly went down. So you see her get hit in the face. Jacy Sheldon doesn't like that, and everybody on the team doesn't like it. Marina, trying to have her teammates back, pushes her down. You see a little bit of drama all the way around. Tina, Charles, Clark, and Mabrey, they received technical fouls. Sheldon received a flagrant 1 foul.
Clark stood there holding her eye. Clearly the victim of a dangerous play, but the refs were blowing their whistles. The arena was in uproar as fans pointed to the replay showing the blatant eye poke. But the referees had already made up their minds. They hit Clark with a technical foul. A technical for defending herself after someone stuck a finger in her eye. It made no sense. Clark had just dropped 32 points in her return from injury, and now she was being punished for reacting to the same dirty tactics that injured her teammates. That call sent the worst message possible. It told the league that if you go after Clark and she responds, she will be the one penalized. But this was only the beginning, because Marina Mabrey was watching it all unfold, and she was about to raise the stakes.
That's what Clark didn't like. Then Mabrey came in with a bump.
And Mabrey's day is almost assuredly going to be done. But both teams.
Right after Clark gets slapped with that bogus technical foul, Marina Mabrey takes things into her own hands in the worst possible way. Clark is still nursing her eye when Mabrey walks over and does something that leaves the entire arena stunned.
And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, Jacy Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlin pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bat out of hell, chucks Caitlin Clark to the ground.
This wasn't normal basketball contact. This was straight up assault. Mabrey body checked Clark like it was a hockey game, not a basketball court, sending her crashing backward to the floor. The hit was blatant and completely unnecessary. Even casual fans in the arena knew what they had just seen. Clark lay on the hardwood, stunned, as she realized another Sun player had just taken a cheap shot at her.
Now after this, you guys, of course, the referees are going to review the play because that's a lot of contact going on right there. That's a lot of unnecessary contact. That's a lot of non-basketball contact happening during this play, right? So the 3 referees that I like to say, they got them straight out of Sephora because I don't think these referees have ever refereed a professional basketball game in their life. They took these referees, they were at the monitor, they looked at it for, I'm not even exaggerating, you guys, like 15 minutes. 15 minutes they are watching this play over and over.
The entire Fever bench jumped to their feet. They had just watched their star get attacked in plain sight. Players were pointing at Mabrey, yelling at the officials, begging them to finally step up. The crowd went wild with disbelief. Head coach Stephanie White was furious, pacing the sideline, yelling at the refs who somehow still didn't react. She waved frantically, shouting at the officials, trying to make them see that this had gone far beyond anything acceptable. White knew her player had just been targeted again, and the refs were about to miss it.
The announcers here are saying, of course, Marina Mabrey is going to get ejected because that was unwarranted. She literally came out of nowhere and chucked Caitlin Clark. There should be a flagrant one, of course, on Jacy Sheldon because she swiped her and hit her in the eyeball. Whether it is intentional or not, you can still have a flagrant a flagrant foul called on you, whether you are trying to intentionally hurt somebody or not. But this is what they called, you guys. This is what they called. Caitlin Clark, Marina Mabrey, Tina Charles were assessed with technical fouls on Tuesday. Caitlin, Marina, and Tina Charles. Technical fouls. That's it. Technical fouls. That's it. And Jacy Sheldon was assessed with a flagrant 1 foul, and no players were ejected.
And then came the call, just a common technical foul for Mabrey. The same penalty Clark got for defending herself after being eye-poked. Let that sink in. Clark gets jabbed in the eye and shoves her attacker technical. Mabrey blindsides Clark with a body check, also technical. The math didn't make sense, and everyone in the arena knew it.
When the officials don't get control of the ball game, when they allow that stuff to happen, and it's been happening all season long. All season long. It's not just this game, it's been happening all season long. This is what happens, right? This is what happens. You've got competitive women who are the best in the world at what they do, right? And when you allow them to play physical and you allow these things to happen, they're going to compete and they're going to have their teammates' backs. It's exactly what you expect, right? Out of fierce competition. So I started talking to the officials in the first quarter, and we knew this was going to happen. You could tell it was going to happen.
Coach White didn't hold back after the game.
They got to be better.
She went off in the press conference, saying when officials don't control the game, when they allow this stuff to happen, this is what you get. She had seen enough. Her players were being targeted and the refs were just standing there, letting it all unfold.
So now let's talk about Sophie Cunningham. At the end of the game, Jacy Sheldon is going for a fast break layup and Sophie Cunningham is running with her. And I remember in my head, like, it happened in a split second and I said, oh, let's see. Let's see what happens here.
By now, the message was crystal clear. The officials weren't going to protect Caitlin Clark, so her teammates would have to do it for her. Sophie Cunningham had been watching from the bench as she was done sitting quietly. Final minute of the game, Fever up 87-70. Jacy Sheldon had the ball again. Cunningham wasn't thinking about the score anymore. She was thinking about May 30th about the eye poke, about Mabrey's cheap shot, and she was ready to respond.
Sophie commits a hard foul on Jacy Sheldon. Again, as Jacy Sheldon is going up for a layup, Sophie bear hugs her and takes her to the ground. What I will say is Sophie did not grab her and throw her to the ground. She didn't body slam her. She didn't do anything, in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm biased here, but I'm gonna give you guys my straight up honest opinion on this. She bear hugged her, took her to the ground. Yes, it was intentional. It was absolutely intentional.
Cunningham hadn't forgotten her own injury in that brutal May game. She remembered being sidelined while Sheldon strutted around untouched. She remembered how the officials ignored everything. Now Sheldon was driving to the rim again, and Sophie saw her opportunity. She stepped up and delivered a hard foul this time. She made sure Sheldon felt it.
It was, to me, payback for what was happening the entire game. But she did it in a way that she wasn't gonna injure Jacy. She was just making it known, like, if the refs aren't gonna handle it, I will handle it. We'll take care of it, but this is not what you're going to do when you come into our house. It was an intentional foul. It was a hard foul. She brought her down. But with that, you guys, Jacy Sheldon got up and she was ready to go. So as you guys can see in this video, a whole scuffle breaks out. Sophie and Jacy are going after it. Both teams are running over, trying to break it up. It kind of goes into the fan section a little.
Cunningham lined up Sheldon and delivered the most satisfying flagrant foul you'll ever see. She grabbed her, wrapped her up, and pulled her hard to the floor. This wasn't a basketball play, this was a message. This was payback. Sophie Cunningham made it clear that nobody goes after her teammates without consequences. She was hit with a flagrant 2 and ejected immediately. Sheldon and Lindsay Allen were also tossed for their roles in the altercation. 3 players gone, but the message had already been delivered. Justice was served.
A rare miss at the rim for Aaliyah Boston, the league's top field goal percentage shooter in the WNBA, but it's Boston who comes up with the steal and the find to Howard. Clark working on the rookie. Clark on the drive. Hang, shot too strong. There's Howard to clean up.
And Clark working off the ball, comes off the stagger.
Third year in her WNBA in terms of setting up her teammates. Clark behind the back, feed inside. 2 more for Howard.
Clark finished with 20 points and 6 assists, leading the Fever to an 88-71 victory that felt like more than just a win, Natasha Howard recorded. Her 50th career double-double with 16 points and 12 boards, while Kelsey Mitchell added 17. It was a full team effort, but everyone in the building knew what really mattered.
The Indiana Fever fans were chanting, "Sophie, Sophie." Sophie's jersey is gonna sell out tonight. She's gonna be in the All-Star game tonight just from this one play because she was standing on business. It wasn't a dirty play. It was an intentional foul and it was meant to send a message. It turned into a scuffle and I don't think anybody wanted that.
This wasn't just a win over Connecticut. This was the Fever proving they won't be pushed around. They won't be bullied. They stand together and defend their own. The win sent them to their first ever Commissioner's Cup final, but more importantly, it sent a message to the rest of the league. If you target the Fever, be ready for the consequences.
Oh, and Clark just took it away. It's a 2-on-1. Clark, bounce pass, pretty find, and Mitchell won't miss from there.
This game proved the Indiana Fever aren't just talented, they're a family that fights for one another. When things get rough and the referees fall silent, players like Sophie Cunningham step up and make sure the message is sent loud and clear. That's what real loyalty looks like in pro sports. Now, the Commissioner's Cup final awaits on July 1st against the Minnesota Lynx. And after everything this team has endured, the future of 2025 is shining bright for Fever fans. Remember this moment when someone tells you loyalty doesn't matter in sports. Sophie Cunningham just proved otherwise. If you support the Fever, comment CC and Spicy Sophie below, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We'll see you in the next video.